Hello, Cosmic Soul family. Ella Ivy here with Lives on Astrology. I've got these cool noise canceling microphone headphones on right now. So let me know if you guys can hear me. This is a new tech that I'm working with. I just had an incredible interview with a fellow astrologer. We were talking about progressions and just having fun with the conversation, which I'm so grateful for because I realized with my Chiron in Aries fifth house, I need to be having more fun with these astrological concepts and musings and way I do my offerings. And so today has been a really very impactful day. And so I felt compelled since I was already in gear and already, kind of in this momentum of speaking astrology. I wanted to jump on here and we're going to look at the chart for today. Today is November 25th, 2025, and the moon has ingressed into Aquarius. And we also have an upcoming Saturn station direct ready to come out of Pisces going into Aries, with the exact conjunction happening in February of 2026 with Neptune both going into Aries, which I know if you study astrology or listen to other astrologers, we've been waiting sort of for this process, for this exact conjunction, and we can already kind of, some of us, be feeling perhaps what's to come based on our own life cycle and things happening within us. And so, right now we've got the transpersonal planets have been retrograde, and everything's going to be moving forward here as we're approaching the beginning of the new year. At the end of, I think it's December 10th, that Neptune will be moving station direct at 29 degrees. And so there's going to be a meetup point actually on January 26th with Saturn and Pisces, or Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. They're going to kiss each other and say their final farewell goodbye. And then coming out of this cycle, this sort of Neptunian cycle that we've been in, especially when it's been conjuncting Saturn, it's like a whole new structural form is being born. I'm thinking of cymatics, right? So if you guys study cymatics and know what it looks like when, they put sand on a metal piece of equipment, and then they put sound to it, and it changes shapes, it changes vibrations and forms based on frequency. Well, we've been in this sort of changing form dynamic since the retrograde season approached in the beginning, especially since beginning, I would say, of uh, gosh, I'm having a brain fart, guys. There's the retrograde. Gosh, what am I thinking right now? Hold on, let me take a breath. All right. See, still in the brain fog. And learning not to take it so seriously. Gosh, my goodness gracious, this Mercury retrograde. Does that ever happen to you guys, that all of a sudden you're thinking a thought and then it just evaporates like water? Like, where the hell was it going? Where was my line of thinking headed? Anyway, that happens quite a bit, especially during retrogrades and especially during Mercury retrogrades. So give yourself grace, give me grace. Because we're all just learning to have the vocabulary and to speak on the energies. And sometimes, especially with Pisces, it's ineffable, really, on how to speak on these energies. But we're doing our best as humanity to try to share with one another the stories that we're experiencing, so we can have just a better experience of this reality timeline wherever you're at, wherever you're watching this from, whatever parts of consciousness have been invoked within you. So this is an astrological conversation using the archetypes of astrology. Now, this channel here, Lives in Astrology, if this is your first time being here, thank you so much for joining this conversation. Lives in Astrology is here as an organic experience. We are not predictive by any means. We can see the upcoming currents. We can see sort of the cosmic weather, if you will. For example, if you know the rainstorm's approaching, right, you can tell the rain is coming, but not all of us get ready and bring umbrellas. Some of us go and dance in the rain, right? So our experience with these currents is what dictates your perception. And so this is all it is a conversation about experiences, about the archetypes of astrology and how they possibly can be interwoven and connecting with you in this now moment. So again, my name is Ella Ivy. Thank you so much for being here. And let's just go ahead and join in. I wanted what was really coming through, especially with this approaching station direct Saturn and Pisces. It feels like, we've been in this wispy sort of energy. It's been months now since this retrograde. And it's almost like reimagining, redreaming the dream, re envisioning the vision of yourself, of humanity, of how you want to be in this world, using your imagination in a new way, especially with this whole conversation about three eye atlas or third eye atlas and the third eye being activated. And I'm not going to go into the correspondences because I'm not so detail oriented of an astrologer. I'm more metaphysical in nature. I'm more of a storyteller. I get to the nuts and bolts of the humanness. If you want somebody more structurally, I would say, accurate with, it's this transit on this day with this, I don't do that. Maybe I could learn to do that more, in future events. But right now, the story that wants to come through this channel is more of the story of humanity and our approach to consciousness using the tool of astrology. And so it's just archetypes, right? And when you think of Aries, you think of the warrior. That's what I think of. I think of Taurus, I think of sensuality, the senses. Gemini, I think of the mind, how we speak. Cancer, I think of home and family. Leo, it's about leadership and how you want to shine, right? Virgo is our daily acts of service and how you show up in the world on the daily. Libra is about all of your relationships, the positive and the negative ones, the agreeable, the disagreeable. Scorpio is about how we're always transforming and changing and moving and shifting. Things are having to die to be reborn. Sagittarius is our philosophy. It's how we see the world. It's our how we approach religion, beliefs. What you see is what you believe, your perception. Capricorn is how you anchor in those perceptions and your beliefs into your daily authority, how you want to show up and be your own inner authority, be the boss of your realm, if you will. Um, being methodical. And Aquarius, of course, comes in and says, well, I'm my own unique expression. So while I'm all of these archetypes, I'm also uniquely me with my own frequency. And then Pisces comes in as the final sign saying, yeah, but you're all of it. You're also part of the one. So we're this unique expression in a singular container, right? We're the drop of the ocean in the ocean itself. And so we're all just sharing an experience about reality, about how astrology works for us. If you study astrology, it's just a system. Just like the gene keys is a system, just like human design is a system, just like working with what is the NFTs? What is it? What is that when you Robert Edward Grant uses this system a lot, FNGs or NFGs, I forget what it's called. Anyway, it's just a system. And so the system of astrology today is pointing to these archetypical energies of transformation, transforming what we perceive, because we've got Sagittarius involved. We're in Sag season right now. So it's about expressing our truth because Sag lives the truth. Sag tends to be very optimistic. It's ruled by Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion. So just in its basic, guys, think of Jupiter like when you take an inhale and your stomach expands out, that's Jupiter, right? It's expanding you. And then you take the exhale and your stomach goes in and that's Saturn, right? That's contracting the energy. So how these dynamics interplay within your own geometry, within your own psycho-spiritual nature is what this channel focuses on, and the story we tell about these happenings. And so Sagittarius, wants the truth about everything. And this is truth season right now. What is true for you? What have you been holding? And with the retrogrades, it's been asking you to hold it lightly because especially it's kind of like the image is coming through. It's like building a sand castle on sand. Eventually it's going to dissolve. So it's been dissolving these structures that were built on false narratives, false stories, things that cannot hold the ground, right? Because I'm thinking too, with Saturn and Capricorn, which rules Capricorn, and historically Saturn ruled Aquarius. It wants structure, but it wants structure built to last. And so any structures of the mind, any career paths, relationships, parts of your life that were not structurally sound, that were built on sand, if you will, that is what's dissolving, because Pisces is coming in with this giant wave, this energy form, this electromagnetic frequency saying that needs to go. And so, what we're being asked to with Saturn getting ready to approach its station, getting ready to go forward, it's like, listen, now all your new hopes and dreams and wishes, things that you want to create, you need to build it on solid ground. So don't build your house on top of sand near the ocean anymore, because that's not meant to last. And look at Atlantis, right? In the story of Atlantis, everything falls eventually and goes back into the psyche, the ocean of astrology, or Pisces rather. It's still there, but it's hidden, right? Hidden in the netherworlds, hidden in the under reaches of our consciousness. But what's emerging now are new land masses, new anchoring points, new centers of ground that want to be built on, that are going to be structurally sound, more structurally sound than they have been, because things, it's like the tide, it comes and goes, it comes and goes, just like the ocean comes and goes and waves are approaching, just like the earth structures, right, will fall back into the ocean and then rise again, right, and be reborn and recreated and recrafted. So this has been going on. Again, Capricorn rules time for eternity, and time is a construct as well. And you guys can deep dive into your own gnosis about time and how it actually created this dimensional space. Without time, there would be no construct, there would be no form, because Saturn rules bones, right? So if you just had your your skin and you had no bones to hold you up, then you would just be like a flesh shoe, right? You'd be like a jellyfish. And so Saturn is saying, hey, we might have been jellyfishing when when Saturn was in retrograde, but it's getting ready to move forward. We can already start feeling the momentum. And it's like, what do you really want to do in this world? Who do you want to be? How do you want to live the rest of your life? Because time is the most valuable resource on this planet. You can always get money back. You can always get things back when it's taken, but you can never get your time back. And so the most valuable resource right now with Saturn and Neptune is like, how are you spending your time? Because that's your most valuable resource. How do you want to spend the rest of your time on this planet, which is not guaranteed? And none of us really know how much time we have. So while we're here, why not do the things that bring us the most joy, the most expansiveness, right? This is all Sagittarius. My Pollyanna Sag is coming out. I've got Sag rising, and I've got the North Node in Sagittarius, 29 degrees, first house. So I needed to be talking about these things, right? Gosh, his headphone says, I hope you guys can hear. Okay, it's kind of annoying, but I got to get used to it. Anyway, got to get used to new technology, new ways of doing things. This is part of the adjustment, right? With Saturn getting ready to ingress and move forward. And as it's approaching Aries, it's like it wants to do something completely new, completely that's more self-sustaining, that's more reliant on self, right? Think of all the characteristics of Aries. While we are deeply connected, we are the one drop of water in the ocean. We are still that one drop, the one within the one, right? I think of almost to like what are those dolls that are like in within each other, right? Nesting dolls. And so we're this nesting doll where a part of the outer shell has been broken open because a new reflection wants to come through. But the nesting doll was actually encoded, which means it's our future self that's been encoded into these old constructs that is approaching in a new way. Think of like the past as the future. This is very much Pluto and Aquarius, right? So, coming back to the future, if you will, with new ideas, with new revelations, with new ways of being on this planet, especially when it has to do with Pisces. It has to do with dissolving what was not real for you. Because at some point in consciousness, think of like a kaleidoscope. All reality is real. If you guys haven't ever played with a Mandelbrot, I would check it out on YouTube, what a Mandelbrot looks like. And at the beginning of this Mandelbrot, it almost looks like the head in the shape of a Buddha. But then as you zoom in and you go into this Mandelbrot, there's different fractions and different, fractals of this particular geometry that's always recurring, right? It's a recursive energy. And just depending on what point of the kaleidoscope or the Mandelbrot you're looking from, that's going to be accurate to you. So when we sit here and argue back and forth and in this polarity state, right, of this us and them, or this is right and this is wrong, especially if you guys follow astrology, right? Some astrologers say, well, Vedic astrology is the correct astrology. Western astrology is the correct astrology. And, we have these peripheries of these systems when really, if you're looking at it from that point of view and that angle, that will be true for you. That will hold truth. And if you look at it from another angle, from another periphery, that's true as well. So until you have this 360-degree awareness that we're all of it, and that we're all each just looking at each other from a different periphery, from a different point of consciousness. Sorry, guys, I'm like fixing this while I'm talking to you because it's kind of annoying, like things on my ear. Yeah, I'm getting distracted. Let me come back. Again, this is part of that retrograde and me adjusting my energy as I start transmitting. Sometimes I get excited. Again, this is excitable energy. Mars is in Sagittarius right now. So I want to expand and hurry up and get it out. So let me just take a breath. Let me remember that this is just an experience. This is a transmission. And again, I guess I get impassioned about it because, this whole polarity game we play with right and wrong and good and bad. And I just feel like this game is ending. Whatever this consciousness was, whatever this reality configuration to this warring aspect within self that feels the need to be right. This is also very ego. So I would denote too with Leo and Aries, the fire signs in particular. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about living your fullest expression. Quit paying attention to what other people are doing. Look at it as how I've been working with this energy, and I've been doing this for a while now, especially since I've curated this particular channel to say all is self, right? It's all me looking at me, back at me. It's just mirroring realities, is mirroring part of my consciousness back to myself. So there's no need to compete, even though Sag and Aries and Leo likes to be competitive. The fire signs I've noticed particularly like to be competitive. But what are you competing with? You're competing with the old version of you. You're competing with old ideas, old constructs, old ways of being that just no longer make sense anymore. So in this particular transmission, we are always going to be pointing towards unity consciousness. We're always going to be pointing towards the bigger picture of we are all one. We need to stop the squabbling and the fighting. And especially with Saturn coming in, there's going to be whole new restructuring of our governing systems, because if you all also follow the archetypes of astrology, Saturn rules Capricorn, which rules government, big business, right? So we're starting to see the collapse of all these industries, right? People are waking up to go, wait a minute. If it's not good for the one, it's not good for the all. And if it's not good for the all, it can't be good for the one. And I have, nothing against capitalism, but I'm saying, why do we need billionaires? Why do we need such a small percentage of the population only having most of the currency in this planet? And you can talk to certain philosophers, and I'm sure certain mathematicians that say, well, this is the way it is. This is the way it has to be. This is the way the construct is. Is it? Because if that construct was built on sand, that's what's dissolving. Anything that was built on falsity, regardless of where you got your information. Because shit, if you found a book that's, hundreds of years old, what if hundreds of years old, they were in falsehood? And now we're holding it as truth, right? And it's just like, I don't know, dogma to me just doesn't make sense anymore. Because living in the now, that's where you're going to get all your, to me, where reality lives, where true truth lives is only in the now. And I know this from experience too, because what was true for me back in the day is no longer true for me now. And I'm just going to give an example. For example, I used to bartend, right, for years. I was in hospitality, and that was the reality I lived in, right, from 1999, when I had my first restaurant job at Bennigan's, by the way. See if you guys remember Bennigan's, which the movie Waiting Shenanigans was based on. It was the exact restaurant that I worked at. It was pretty cool. So the reality was I was in hospitality and a server, and that was the role that I served, and that was the part that I played. But through conscious evolution, through my own spiritual gnosis, through a deep remembering of my unique soul, I was led to start studying astrology as a way to help with my own dark night of the soul. This happened back in 2002. And in 2005, I took my first astrology class, right? So in the background of me playing this part of being in hospitality, in the background, I was studying astrology secretly. I was looking at the archetypes. I meet somebody, they approach the bar, I'd ask them about themselves, and casually ask, what's your birthday? And calculating in my mind, does that make them a sun Leo or some sun Libra? What does this make them? I was just, and so that was the reality then that I was experiencing. And now that dissolved and fell away because hospitality for me is no longer a vibrational match. Again, it served me at the time and where I was in my consciousness and as my training ground for learning to work with big groups of people and big groups of consciousness. And so now I'm transforming this. Okay, this is all part of the evolutionary concept. We talk about evolutionary astrology. Now my soul has evolved and is transforming into being more of service in this particular realm, right? Through astrology, through spirituality, through being embodied, right? Not just so heady with the concepts, because sometimes learning astrology puts you very much in your head. But this is also now bringing it into the body, like, okay, body awareness. I know Sagittarius is expansion. So every time I exhale, or inhale rather, I'm expanding. So that, again, having a new relationship with these concepts, with these ideologies, with these archetypes, is that what I feel we're all doing it in our own unique way, in our own unique expression, whatever program or system you're using, right? It's not about being right or wrong, guys. It's about how are you evolving? Are you being your most harmonic, vibrationally balanced self, right? Anywhere there's been kinks in consciousness, kinks in the way you think, kinks in your nervous system and your energy bodies, all that's coming up to be recalibrated and to be transmuted into shifting to something else, right? That's why you're looking at these energies like Atlantis, or we're talking about Lemuria, or these old systems, these old societies, Tartaria. And again, if you have never heard of these things, please go research them on YouTube. Pretty cool stories, because it's, again, this is all a story about our reality, because all realities are real based on the periphery that the person is telling their particular experience of this reality. That's real to them. So who am I to judge, to say, well, no, you're wrong, dude. You study Vedic astrology. That's wrong. Is it? It may not be wrong to them. It actually might tune a chord within them that helps their resonant field become more harmonic, more balanced, more self accepting, right? So if you're making somebody wrong and you're trying to be right, again, that's that nuanced ego that just wants to be safe, that just wants to know that sometimes when we get into these disagreements about whatever, it's about just wanting to be safe, wanting to know that you're not crazy, that you're valid for thinking the thoughts you think. And again, we're in Moon and Aquarius today. Every unique thought, every unique periphery, again, has credibility, has value, because it's a unique expression of source expressing itself through the one. Shout out to Robert Edward Grant, because I love his consistency on expressing that we are the one, experiencing it in an individuated body, but also back to the one energy, right? And I love that the science now, that the language of science is starting to express this, what the deep mystics have already known. And so there's this union of science and spirituality. It doesn't have to be either or, it's and more. So the and more that's coming up with the Saturn direct, it's like, be direct with who you want to become. And if it's and allow yourself to have the highest hopes, dreams, and wishes for yourself, because if you do it for you, you're doing it for us. You're doing it for humanity, because we are all connected. This whole illusion of separation, that's what's dissolving. That's what's falling apart. That's the constructs that have been built on sand that is just being washed away. So now there's new infrastructures coming on within the mind. We do still have, let's look at the chart while we're doing this. Let me put on my eyeballs here. And let's take a look at what the planets are saying based on symbols. And if you guys ever have looked at, let's see, I'm going to do an entire screen here. Here we go. Have you ever looked at the symbols themselves? I love doing this as a practice. When you're looking at astrology, just take the symbol itself. Like, this is the symbol for the moon. right? And we know in numerology it's at 3 degrees right now, and this is the symbol for Aquarius. So I have Aries on the ascendant because I just like to look at the wheel in a cohesive way for ever who's watching this. And so we can see that right now, this is the symbol for Mars, right? Mars is action. Just break it down into simple terms. In Sagittarius is truth, and it rules the ninth house, which is about our philosophies, our beliefs, right? So taking action on truth based on what we believe. Simple. Just keep it very, very, I call them the Occam's razor of spirituality. The simplest explanation tends to be the correct. So when you're studying these things, or when you're looking at this particular system, whether you're looking at it from the periphery of Vedic or Western astrology, shamanistic astrology, evolutionary astrology, I mean, it's pretty infinite, the kaleidoscope of ways to study the system. But what you're drawn to and what is resonating for you at the time is correct for you. So there is no right or wrong or good or bad. It's just the periphery of where you are in your consciousness and what you're choosing to see in the now moment that makes sense for you, that brings you a more level of coherence, which is truth, which puts you in your body in a safe way, that lets your body and your nervous system know, hey, there's a true experiencing happening because I can feel it and I feel comfortable with what I'm experiencing, right? Or I feel uncomfortable and I'm choosing to have a different experience. So I'm going to use this system to help point to the direction to show me how to have a new experience, right? So looking at the sun here, we can see the sun just ingressed into Sagittarius. Sun is how we've come to shine. And again, in Sagittarius, which is truth. So we're learning to tell the truth about ourselves, our identity. The sun is ruled by the first house, Aries. So, or actually, I'm sorry, the sun is ruled by Leo, the fifth house, but it's a first house endeavor. So, in other words, the first house in astrology through this Western astrology system that I use is the I am, right? And so the sun is where you've come to shine in that I am presence. And right now, the sun is shining in Sagittarius. I am truth. I am seeking truth. I am moving towards truth. I am actively, this is the movement, right? Mars. I am taking action to do what is true for me. And we've also got right here, we can see this is the symbol for Venus. She's in Scorpio right now. And it looks like she's conjunct Mercury, which is retrograde, also in Scorpio, how we think. So Venus is what we love, what we value. Mercury is how we think. And then so going back to this direct, as we can see, this is also trining Saturn right now, which is why this transmission wanted to come through, because a new sound structure of thoughts, of what we value, of what we find beautiful, this is also Venus, of what we're magnetized towards, is shifting. It's saying, look, you need to bring more groundedness, because we can see here, turn this to days. We can see that Saturn turns direct on November 28th. So now we still have this trine. You can see this, that Venus is still going to be involved in this trine energy. Neptune or Mercury is still going to be involved here. And, Pisces is just saying in Neptune, now that the structures have dissolved, there are new constructs that want to be born, but it's got to be through feeling. How do you want to feel? How do you want to express yourself? How do you want to be seen? Again, the sun. What is your truth? What action are you willing to take to ground in your own personal philosophy, your own personal vision of the world? Because it's needed when the collective energies right now, and this is a square happening too, especially with Sag and Pisces, it's forcing us to get to the truth of our own nature, of who we really are, of who we've really come to be. There's no more hiding. The sun is going to illuminate your own particular truth. And can you see your truth and accept yourself? And self-acceptance is also part of that love, right? It's the Venus aspect. And Scorpio is very penetrative. It wants deep connection. It wants unity with the other. It wants deep metamorphosis and change and transformation and rebirth. So we are rebirthing ourselves. And Saturn's like, okay, almost like if the bones disintegrated and now they're being rebuilt, right? So it's like we're getting ready to wear a new flesh suit. And it's based on our hopes and dreams and wishes, our truths, what we believe to be true, our perception. And of course, we've also got Pluto right now in Aquarius, which is 11, rules the 11th house, which is hopes, dreams, and wishes. Let me go back to the now. Because the moon is also conjunct Pluto. We can see this within a 3-degree orb. So the moon is our emotional nature. It's how we feel. So this feeling realm is activating us because it also has to do with Pisces too. It's our spirituality. We're feeling our spiritual nature come and take hold, and I'm seeing like a restructure, almost like if a, a lost, say for example, the lost civilization of Atlantis, all of a sudden lifted up and showed itself again, and we're seeing all these old monuments and monolithic things that used to exist in the past is being brought up now because Saturn rules the past, is being brought up to be seen in a whole new way. This is the sun, Sagittarius, the truth of our ancestors, the truth of our history, the truth of who we once were. And truth, honestly, is your truth is going to be true for you. It's the story we tell. And so I don't even know at this point in my consciousness, as I'm deep diving into these, thought patterns, if the truth that I was told as a child, third house matters, Gemini, which of course we've got Uranus that had moved and ingressed into Gemini, went back into Taurus. And that's also retrograding to go, hey, your values, what you valued as truth, perhaps in the past, is no longer, you're going to have to reevaluate that because truth is the eye of the beholder, right? That, what is that analogy? One man's trash is another man's treasure, whatever truth is for them. And so, what are you trashing to be able to see what the treasure is? Where? 12th house, your psyche, your own personal evolution, things from the past that used to matter, that used to be vibrationally true for you, are dissolving. And so there's new constructs, there's new things emerging, there's new land masses emerging, there's new ways of seeing this reality that's coming through you, by you, for you, and through the collective energies. Like, I think of it like a collective agreement. So if you can stay steadfast on your collective agreement, especially with the moon today being in Uranus or Aquarius, to be your authentic self, if you can commit, Saturn, to being your authentic self, Uranus, Aquarius, and through Pisces, bringing your own individuated dream, vision, um, perception of how you want to see this world. Can you bring it, and can you be honest about it? Can you shine the light on and take action on your truth? And your truth doesn't have to agree with somebody else's truth. This is your own unique individuated expression, because as we move into February of 2026, I'm going to stop screen sharing. There's this massive conjunction happening with Aries, with Pisces, I'm sorry, with Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries. And none of us have ever seen this particular conjunction before. Historically, we've had it, but it's been hundreds and hundreds of years since we had it. So this is a whole new reality timeline that's reemerging, that's bringing itself back up to like, again, I think of like the Atlantis, right? Coming up, these land masses, these ways that our ancestors used to live, their truth is now coming and merging timelines into the current truth of who we are and what we're about, and maybe where we've really come from, right? And our relationship to the outer realms. And personally, I think the outer realms, the further out in the cosmos you go, is the further deeper you go into the ocean. Because I think personally, just in my own, being a psychonaut and also just being in a meditative practice for most of the day, because I've created a life now where I've chosen consciousness over money, if you will. I haven't really been playing with lots of money since 2018 when Uranus ingressed into Taurus. And now, because I had to reconfigure and deconstruct my whole personal identity being a bartender. And then especially after 2020 hit and COVID hit and then the whole hospitality industry changed, I'm like, wow, I really can't do this anymore. So who am I going to be after this aspect dissolved, this persona that I held on to? Who am I becoming? And now I'm realizing it's just a person of consciousness who wants to tell the truth about their own reality and not worry about what everybody else thinks. And this is what we're being, especially with Aries, Saturn, and conjuncting Neptune, is asking for you, for your own individuated perception, reality, to be shined through, to be expressed, because you are the one being in the one. And we are expressive beings engaged in this consciousness that we've never been in before. So whatever your relationship is to, say, extraterrestrials or, out of body experiences, my personal relationship is the further out of body I go, it's really the deeper within that I travel, because I see the cosmos as living within me, as one living giant organism. And my periphery, my perception, the part of the mandala, the part of the Mandelbrot fractal that I'm looking from right now in this now moment, is that everything that exists outside of us in this like three-eye atlas approaching whatever cosmic energy, whatever we've been told about space, about Earth, even the dimensions, if it's flat, is it round? I don't know. But there's been this magnificent story that we're all telling based on what we think we know, and we're trusting the science, who now we realize are just also priestcraft that are telling their reality of how they want to craft their reality timeline, right? So again, grounding in Saturn to spiritual practices, breath, meditation, going out in nature, bare feet on the ground if you can. I know it's getting ready to approach the winter time in the northern hemisphere here where I'm at, so sometimes grounding may be challenging, or just go hug a tree, right? Just take your bare hand and just touch the tree, right? Ground in and connect to the root system of the truth that is you. And don't, if you're watching television or if you're watching other creators express their own opinions about their reality, and that opinion seems to resonate with you and takes you on an inner exploration of self further, that again brings you more coherence, more balance, more love, more, interesting vibrations that feel good in your body, rock with that, right? Because nothing is right or wrong, right? There's rules to the game that we've been in, and there's certain things you don't want to do, right? That's why I think we created the religion and the whole 10 commandments, right? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not sleep with your neighbor, that shall not, perform gluttony, whatever the 10 commandments are. They're basically just saying, hey, we're in this game together. If you do any of these things, these 10, let's say, actions, you may not have the best experience. So our ancestors were telling us, look, just don't kill anybody, don't kill yourself, be cool to your neighbors, don't overeat, don't overdo things too much, just like a little bit of a guidepost. Right now we've created stories all around this as a form of control, and that's like a whole nother timeline scenario I don't want to go down right now, because I'm in this Pollyanna Sagittarius expressive stage where I'm seeing the optimistic view of what this experience has been. So I'm kind of rambling on now at this point. I think I'm feeling again that expansiveness, but I'm just so grateful that wherever you are in your consciousness, wherever you're experiencing, whether it's through astrology or whatever other systems that you are discovering self, that you are learning more about yourself, just be graceful with yourself. Be gentle in knowing that you don't really know, and I don't really know. We're all just hypothesizing this thing. We're all just telling a story of our experience in our own unique way. And so use it as a form of entertainment, as engagement. Don't hold anything too lightly, right? Think of sand, just you holding sand, but it's always going to fall. Just know that you're holding reality and truth lightly, because we are getting ready to go into new states of consciousness, especially in 2026 and 2027, that's going to shake up everything you think you know about everything you think you know. So be willing to, ground. Go connect to a tree, go connect to your body in a new way, drink some water, some blissed water. I always like to, harmonic, because I know everything's cymatic and it's all about vibration and balance. I like to sometimes put my whatever I'm drinking right today, it's tea. And sorry, my phone's going off. Oh, Lisa, I'll call you back. Anyway, you put your drink on your forehead and you say, just you can hum and say thank you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, because this is a cymatic universe, right? So you're cymatically putting your own tonation, your own love, your own generating principles into water. And this is another thing too with the water bear, Aquarius, and Pluto. Man, we're going to have whole new revelations about what water really is and the technology that water really is and the technology of the water that's inside of you. So there's all kinds of constructs that are coming to light. So just be ready to ride the ride of your life and to hold this reality lightly. Don't take any of it too serious. And then more importantly, don't take yourself too serious, because we're here to have experiences, to have more fun, to have more joy. And if you need to go through that dark night of the soul to get to that, right, because we do live in a polarity universe, right? You can't have sorrow without joy. You can't have you know health without knowing what it's like to be sick, right? This is also, chronic illness has to do with Saturn too. So this is for those of you that are experiencing any kind of sicknesses, especially has it had it been retrograde in Pisces, would have to do with unknown diseases or sicknesses of the spirit, sicknesses of the psyche, right? That manifest into physical form. Just give yourself some grace, give yourself some love, tell your body how much you love it. Tell your water, your drinks, how much you love it, right? Bless your meals. I like to just put my hands over my head, before I eat a meal, and just thank the hands that prepared the meal and the earth that grew the nutrients that I can digest it in an organic and beautiful way, right? Everything's about intention. So what is your intention? Is your intention to be right and to claim that one group or one consciousness or one system is wrong and yours is right? Does that make you happy? Does that feel good in your body? Because if you're right that you're making somebody else wrong and the somebody else is still you, right? So again, this is a game we're playing with ourselves. And let's just learn to play a better game, a more harmonious, fun, inclusive game that accepts all reality as real. You just get to pick and choose which timeline based on your frequency. So tune in, manage your frequency, manage your vibration, have more fun, and enjoy this Pollyanna sort of Sagittarius perspective right now, because we are expanding, we are growing. Some of us are going back inward and doing the inner work to kind of get out the gunk, to clean out these toxic behaviors and things and ways of seeing the world, Mercury, Scorpio. But we're going to be moving forward. And again, this whole culmination of this new wave that's approaching within these next few years is going to rattle and shake your reality. But it doesn't have to be so heavy. It can be fun. Stay inquisitive, stay curious, stay open to truth, because truth only will show up in the now. It doesn't exist anywhere else. So what is true for you today? These are just some of the questions and contemplations that wanted to come through. And thank you again so much for being here. And if you want a unique sort of chart reading session, that's what I do. I get embodied with it. We do some meditation practices first. We breathe together. We get into the Akashic record field, because everything that's happening is happening all at once, right? Everything, everywhere, all at once. So setting the intention before a chart session will really help you focus in on what is it that for your highest expression, for your most harmonious self to come through. What do you need to know? So we're going to look from that periphery. And if that's something that you want to explore or engage in or have the experience of, then please reach out to me. I'd love to be able to hold that space, that sacred container. And as we're moving forward, I'm seeing now too, of wanting to speak more on these concepts more consistently, Saturn. So I do have a Discord channel, which I love, because I can also, first of all, it's free. So you can screen share the astrology. You can talk to your community. You can be in an intimate gathering, and it's going to be donation based. You can give whatever you want, because I do have to pay for this tech, the Wi-Fi and things. And so that's all money to me as a tool. And I'm so grateful to be able to exchange this type of conversation with you, because again, we're not meant to do this life alone. We are here in community. This is also Moon and Aquarius. We're here to do this together in group and like minds, like hearts. So if you're interested in astrology, you want to know more about astrology, and you want to have these kind of cosmic conversations, because it's going to be a two-way street. It's not just me teaching. It's us actually collaborating and connecting and expressing ourselves. And so I'm going to be holding this specific container starting every Tuesday. So Tuesdays is going to be my media day. So look out for live transmissions just like this. And also, we're going to be speaking probably in the evening. I'm guessing around 6 o'clock p.m. Astrology on the Discord channel. We're going to be really just pumping in the energy for the community. And really, it's time to expand. It's time to grow. It's time to learn to love ourselves unconditionally and quit nitpicking on the other what they're doing. It doesn't matter. Just what are you doing? How are you feeling? That's what matters. Upload that into the field, and that's what's going to help regulate this whole thing in a more loving and harmonious expression. So, okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for, if you're still here, thank you for connecting. And just put maybe like a little heart in the comment if you're still here, if you made it this far in the video. And yeah, I'm excited about building community in this way, in this new navigation point with astrology. So, all right, guys, I'll see you on Discord 6 p.m. tonight. For those of you that want to pop on and say hello, and maybe we can pull up your chart. We can talk about more of the transits. We can get a little more intimate and just talk about things that maybe the social media platform doesn't allow us to talk about, but we can deep dive into some really cool concepts, especially with this Saturn station getting ready to go direct and what that can mean for you. So let's focus in the energy on that tonight. So, all right, guys, I'll see you tonight, 6 p.m. Much love. Thank you for being here. Bye.